Thank you for tuning in. This is Jonathan James Cramer, Content Marketing Director here at Dun Bradstreet. I recently spoke to Malcom Hawker, Distinguished Architect here at Dun Bradstreet, about his white paper entitled The Data Governance Minimum Viable Product. In this short podcast, Malcom discusses an issue that he covers in his white paper referred to as the governance paradox. Have a listen.
So I see this day in and day out. I in my position, I get to work with some of the biggest Fortune 1000 companies literally across the globe. And I see this so often. And the paradox describes a situation where companies know that in order to get the most value out of their enterprise data, right? And what I mean by enterprise data, it's the thing that I touched on before. It's their list of customers, it's their partner data, it's their vendor data, it's their supplier data, right? So all of that enterprise data, companies know to get any value out of it that is actionable and repeatable and scalable, that they need to apply governance competencies to that data, right? They need policies and procedures in place that can give people within the organization some level of trust, some level of confidence that the data that they're looking at is accurate, that the data that they're looking at is timely, that the data that they're looking at is complete, and that requires, that confidence requires some level of governance. The problem, and here's where the paradox comes into play, the problem is that the overwhelming majority of companies operating out there today and do not actually have any means whatsoever to measure the value of that data. I can tell you on one hand the number of companies that I've worked with over the last 3 years who actually have developed metrics that say things like, here's how much an account is worth. Here's how much a single customer record, whether that record's in my CRM system, my ERP system, doesn't matter, but here's how much it's actually worth, right? In an extreme situation, think about it this way. If, for whatever reason, all of the data in your CRM system evaporated tomorrow, what would the financial impact be on your business? Do you know? Right? Most companies do not know. They don't know. And at a very, very basic level, you can ask the question of how much is an account in your ERP system actually worth? How much is an accurate account actually worth? If you put a new account into your CRM system today, how much incremental revenue can you be generating from cross-sales, upsells, capturing any potential white space that you've got out there? The overwhelming majority of customers that I work with and companies that I work with can't answer those questions. That means that if you cannot value your enterprise data, right? If you can't put any value on it, that means that it's really, really hard to justify prolonged investments in governing the data. All companies want ROI, right? Everybody wants some ROI. They want some return of investment. So finance people are rightfully asking, okay, you IT professional, you chief data officer, are asking for an investment around governance. What's that going to get us? What's that actually going to buy us? These questions are being asked, and the answers just aren't there. So what I see time and time and time again is that governance is kind of funded as an add-on to some sort of CapEx project for the implementation of MDM software or other governance software or other systems and tools where those assets actually can be capitalized. They can be valued because they show up on the balance sheet and they show up on the income statement. So financial people say, aha, okay, I get it. And we'll tag on this governance, when we're standing at this governance cost, we'll tag that on as an OPEX item to the purchase of capital equipment. We can value that, we can monetize that, got it. But the problem is that once you get that software stood up, and the next year you go back for funding to fund the OPEX for ongoing stewardship, for ongoing maintenance, for the people required to support a governance project program, it's really, really hard to justify it. That's the paradox. Customers know, and go ahead.
Does some of this attitude and I guess view of the situation come from the three V's you mentioned earlier on? So the volume, variety, and velocities. There's so much data coming in from all different directions. Does that sort of create this attitude where, look, we can't get a hold of it. It's impossible to establish an ROI. Let's just take it as it comes because there's too much and there's too much variety. Is that do the three V's sort of contribute to that attitude?
They absolutely contribute to it. They make the problem worse. But I honestly think in many ways, as IT professionals, we're in many ways our own worst enemy, right? Because we tend to be fairly analytical. We tend to be fairly detail-centric. And we look at data and we see things like a lack of a common key. Right? We see things like incomplete data. We see things like inaccurate data. We see things like duplicate data. And in our minds as IT professionals, we go, okay, that's bad. We need to fix that. And yes, we do need to fix that. These things are all hindering our ability to meet our strategic goals. But we inherently view that as being bad, and we inherently view that as something that should be fixed. And the simple fact that a duplicate exists, for example, in many IT professionals' mind, that is the ROI, right? And that's the business justification, removing the duplicate. But for a lot of folks in a financial world, and a lot of folks that are controlling access to funds within an organization, that's not an ROI, right? Removing a duplicate, right? Who says it's a duplicate? We're a publicly traded company. We have our books audited every quarter by a large consultancy that stamps our books as being rock solid, right? Who are we supposed to be? Who are we supposed to believe? The IT guy that says that removing duplicates is an ROI, or the financial person that says the data's fine and our auditor says the data is fine, and I really don't see a justification for investing in, for example, data quality or data governance to solve for this problem. So yes, the 3 V's are a big problem. Yes, having more data than there ever has been before is a huge problem, and it's causing a lot of problems for organizations to get their hands around all of it. But I think in many cases that it's just a matter of IT folks not knowing how to put the right lens and to sell, for lack of a better word, sell the concept of data governance internally, because we often just confuse improving data quality with business outcome, and that's not how financial folks look at the problem. They look at business outcome.
This has been a Dun Bradstreet podcast. Be sure to click the link below to get your copy of Malcolm's white paper, The Data Governance Minimum Viable Product, an agile approach to implementing your enterprise data governance program. Thank you for listening.